Welcome to the Krueg Show, everybody. Larry Krueger with you, back with you. Dave Softy Mahler from KJR joins us right now from Seahawks camp. What's going on, Dave?
How are you, big boy? I am outside the greatest practice facility in the history of the National Football League, the Virginia Mason Athletic Center, as we speak. Walking into Seahawks training camp, get yourself a mini helmet, a mini football, regular size footballs. We got men, we got women, we got kids, we got whatever you want, baby. Seahawks Pro Shop is up and running. We even got some freaking super dope planter baskets here. Go Hawks! See? There you go. You see, we're all fired up. I'm walking in right now, baby. I'm going to show you the coolest trophy case in the history of the National Football League in just a minute here. A lot of people don't ever get to have tours like this. There's our police officer.
You guys are very secure. Very secure.
Got the candy bowl right there. One of my favorite parts about
they don't
coming
do that
here.
in Santa Clara.
And then look at this. You walk over here. There's an NFC Championship trophy, and there's a Super Bowl trophy. I know the Niners have not won one of those in your lifetime, but that's what that looks like, baby. So yeah,
only
we're here
one,
at the
just
VMAC
just
right
the
now.
one, huh? Just that one.
Yeah. I think you were maybe 60 the last time the Niners won a championship. So, and we're inside the media room as we speak. There's Bob Condota from the Times. There's Tim Booth from the AP. There's Michael Sean Dugar, and that weird guy with the neck. That's Dick Fain. That's my partner right there. So. Yeah, baby. This is where the magic happens.
This is where it happens. And then where's the field?
I'm walking out right now. Here we go. And there's the field right there. Look at that.
Wow.
Yeah. You know what,
dude? Are you a regular?
You have a lot of guests on your show. How many of them give you a tour of a place like this?
Seriously. We're seriously behind the scenes at Seahawks camp.
Is this not the coolest freaking thing you've ever seen? You walk over here, you see Curtis Crabtree from ProFootballTalk.com. One of the great NFL writers in the history of the world, Larry Krueger from down there in San Francisco.
Look at that.
There's the Hawks right there working out on the VMAC practice field. There's the Virginia Mason Athletic Center where all the magic happens. This is where the road to the Super Bowl starts here, Larry, right here.
How often do you do the show from there, Dave?
We are here 2 or 3 days a week. Just depends on what's happening with the exhibition schedule. So they play on Friday against the Cowboys, so no practice Thursday. I think they travel Wednesday. So, honestly, I got to be honest with you, dude, between you and me. First of all, let me ask you a question. Does anybody watch this thing at all? Is there anybody watching this?
Yes. Right now, you mean? Oh, yeah, there's people here.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Because I'm kind of trying to pick and choose my words carefully. There's Bob Condota from the Times, great NFL beat writer. I hate coming here. I hate it. I hate coming here. Oh, yeah, I really do. I mean, you get like 1 or 2 players a day. They don't say shit. A bunch of cliches. They don't say anything to you. And then there's our radio booth right there. There's Ian Furness, our 1 to 3 guy, as we speak right now. He's doing his radio show. And then you sit here and you roast your ass off for 4 hours, man. I don't like the heat.
Give me a temperature. What are we talking about?
What do you think it is, Schrammick, right now? About 75 degrees or so?
About 70.
80? 70, 80 says, yeah.
That's
my boy
bad.
Schrammick from Channel 13. He's one of the great photographers of our time in this industry. So, yeah, man, we're out here with the people. Got the fans here all fired up. Go Seahawks! Yeah! There you go. Hey, have you guys ever heard of Larry Krueger?
Yeah.
You have not.
Yes,
You're a liar.
yes.
You're a liar.
Yes, no, they're huge fans. Regulars on the Krueg Show.
Yeah.
So, Dave, now this is a nice setup. Is this where the Hawks train year-round?
Yes, year-round. This is their
facility.
facility.
They have camp in their facility.
Oh, yeah. So if you look beyond those trees there that you're looking at right now, Lake Washington is literally right behind there.
Wow.
I mean, we are literally right on Lake Washington as we speak. So, the Blue Angels, when they were practicing a couple weeks ago, they do a hydroplane tournament every year, and they do their deal, and they were here last week. So they fly right overhead, but all the fans end up on the berm over here. They all watch practice, and I think today's more of like a VIP kind of thing going on. We got some paramedics, firemen, the real heroes in America here today with us from Virginia Mason Renton Fire Department. Shout out to Renton, by the way. But it's fun. I mean,
how far from the actual stadium is the facility?
It's about 15 minutes west from the stadium, just over the freeway. Yeah, so with no traffic, we could be there in 15 minutes, easy.
And KJR, how far is KJR from where you're at?
Our studios are about 25 minutes away. Our studios, Larry, honestly, are in the worst freaking location in town because you got to get off the freeway, go all the way across town until you hit Puget Sound, and that's where our offices are.
That
It's
is
ridiculous.
awesome.
Yeah. Brutal.
Well, hey, there's lots of people in the chat, and there are people saying, "Hey, Dave, good to see you," and sorry about your family loss, and people know about your dad passing and all that. So I mean, we just wanted to give our condolences, of course, to you on the show. We did
Thank
that,
you.
of course, privately,
Thank
but
you.
I know you're hurting. It hasn't been an easy time for you, but we appreciate you, brother. And as we make the transition to the Hawks and to the topic at hand, the 49ers and the Seahawks. What are you believing? Matt Mayoko, who covers the Niners down here, said yesterday that he expects, or the 49ers expect, Jimmy Garoppolo to wind up with the Seahawks. Last we discussed it, you were not a big fan of it. Have you warmed to it after watching Locke and Gino, or where are you at with it on your show?
Well, I just don't know if anybody out there makes a real difference for this football team, including Jimmy Garoppolo. I know that Drew Lock and Geno Smith don't make a difference for this football team. And what is, if you're 6-11 with Geno Smith or Drew Lock, what does Jimmy G make you? 8-9, 9-8? I mean, at what cost, right? That's always the question. At what cost? So I don't have a lot of interest in going after somebody and giving up any draft capital whatsoever. Honestly, I'd rather see these guys suck for a year, rebuild the rest of this roster, and then bring in the quarterback at the end, which is the exact same recipe that they used when they got Russell Wilson, right? When he showed up here, the entire offensive line was already built. The defense was already dominant. You had Marshawn. You had Sidney Rice and Doug Baldwin and Zach Miller. You had a football team around Russell Wilson. So I'm more concerned about building a football team for the next quarterback instead of building a football team starting with the next quarterback. I'd rather go the route they went 10 years ago, and I think that's what they're doing. This roster isn't terrible right now on paper, except for the quarterback.
What are your fans telling you? Like when you open up the lines on KJR and you guys get into it, what are the fans saying?
I don't have any fans. I have no listeners. I have no fans whatsoever, so I have no idea what the hell they're talking about. No, I think most people are kind of like me. They're a little bit befuddled as to why Pete Carroll's doing things the way he is with this quarterback battle. But honestly, and I've said this on the air, and I think a lot of fans agree, I don't care who the quarterback is. I don't care. I mean, Larry, you're talking about, picking between chicken salad and chicken crap, right? I mean, two bums fighting over a quarter, Drew Lock or Geno Smith. Those are my options. If those are my options, then just pick one and tell me who it is, because I couldn't care less. They're both bums. They both stink. They're both nobodies. They're both available for a reason. This is the worst quarterback room in the National Football League, and it's not even freaking close. So I don't give a crap who starts at quarterback for the Seahawks this year, because there's no obvious answer. Again, you're asking me, do I want a baseball bat to the head or a rake to the brain? Who gives a crap who the quarterback is? They both stink.
Lewis Riddick, you don't share Riddick's belief. Then Riddick says the Seahawks really look good, and
except for the quarterback.
I watched him against the Steelers. I thought they looked. I thought they're. How's Damian Lewis, by the way?
Yeah, we don't know. He's going to probably miss a couple weeks, and they're fine at guard. They've got Gabe Jackson. They got Phil Haynes. They'll be fine at guard. I just think in the end, the bottom line with these guys is that Lewis Riddick is right. They do have a decent roster around the quarterback, but it's like, hey, the rest of my house looks incredible. I got a great roof. I got great drywall. I got incredible trim. I got these, nice hardwood floors, but yeah, my foundation's falling apart and the whole thing may flood. I mean, again, hey, look, that's great. He's right. They got DK Metcalf. They got Lockett. They got Penny. They got Walker. They got Taylor. They got Jordan Brooks. They got Jamal Adams. They got Quandre Diggs, but they have no freaking engine. They have no quarterback. They have no foundation. They have no basis to say anything else besides mediocrity for 2022. So the rest of the lineup is fine, but okay, what the hell does that mean if you can't find a freaking quarterback?
Are you guys peeking down the road in the college game? Is there somebody you're wanting?
Yes.
And who do you want?
Yeah. No, I love the kid from Kentucky, Will Levis, man. I've had my eye on him for a while. I think a lot of people have been watching him, and this is one of the cool things about 2022 is that for the first time in 10 years, we got a reason to watch a lot of random college football games, right? I mean, you had no reason to look for quarterbacks until now. So I think you're going to hear a lot of that on our show and our station this year, kind of focusing on who those quarterbacks are and identifying the next great one in the NFL draft. But everybody focuses on, Bryce Young and CJ Stroud. And guys like that, Caleb Williams from USC, et cetera. But, to get one of those guys, you got to be awful, like 3-14 type of awful. And I just don't think the Hawks are going to be that bad with the rest of their roster.
If they got Jimmy Garoppolo, let's just say the Niners cut him loose and they can get him for the minimum. One, do you think Schneider and Carroll would pounce? And two, how many games do you think they would win?
Oh, God, I think they're probably a 9-win team at best, honestly, with Jimmy G. I don't know, man. I mean, you've been watching him play longer than me, and their record with him the last couple of years is not very good. I think Jimmy G has kind of proven what he is. He's a very capable, middle-of-the-road starting quarterback in the NFL, if not maybe one of the elite backup quarterbacks, I think, in the National Football League. But the idea that you can ride Jimmy G's back to a Super Bowl championship or a deep run come playoff time, I think that's nonsense. I mean, I don't know what people have been watching with him that would lead them to believe that's the case, unless you're a total homer.
Right, exactly. Well, yeah, I mean, the only thing is that, he's a guy that's well thought of in the locker room, so on and so forth. He's a leader. I mean,
blah, 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 blah. You know who else is well thought of in the locker room? Geno Smith. Geno Smith is well thought of in the locker room, okay? I mean, give me a break. I mean, guys that work hard, guys that come prepared, guys that inspire other people and aren't arrogant are well liked in the locker room. That's fine. I'm looking for difference makers, Larry. I'm looking for athletes. I'm looking for guys that can step up and I can put a team on their back and expect him to make a play. Geno Smith is not that guy. Drew Lock is not that guy. Jimmy Garoppolo is not that guy, and you're not that guy. And whoever that guy is that just came on, he's not that guy either.
Are you sure?
Yeah, you're not that guy either.
That's true.
My God.
That's true luck.
Yeah.
Ryan Smith, Dave Softy Mahler, Ryan Smith. Let me read a couple of these. Flav donates $9.99. He says they needed to donate to Krueg for the epic Brock Purdy segment with Grant Cohn yesterday. Been in so many debates about him and people saying I'm insane for saying the same things. Thank you, Purdy. Better be on this roster. Dave, I'm losing my mind because I think Purdy is a good quarterback. Do you think Brock Purdy, if the Niners cut him loose, would Seattle have interest in him?
I think the Seahawks, given their history, would have interest in anybody. But I think they're pretty dug in right now with Drew Lock and Geno Smith, man. I mean, Pete Carroll, for some reason, thinks that Drew Lock and Geno Smith are the second coming of Joe Montana and Steve Young. Honestly, I mean, this guy, the way he talks about him, you think that he believes they're Hall of Famers. So the season starts in, 2.5 weeks from now? And I just think bringing in a new quarterback at this point is different than bringing in a new wide receiver or a defensive lineman or an offensive lineman. This is a totally different animal. So, I think the Hawks are pretty much set with their quarterbacks for now, man.
Flav donates $4.99. Says true. Not even Jimmy Jesus can save the Seahawks this year. They stink. Stick with Geno. Jimmy will prevent you from getting a top 5 pick for sure.
Hey, look, man. There's nothing wrong with stinking. There's nothing wrong.
Yeah, no, seriously.
Stinking.
If you're gonna be bad, really lean into it a little bit. Who's gonna win the gig between Geno and Locke? Who's better?
I think Geno Smith wins the job.
Is that because
starts
of COVID?
The opener? Partly because of COVID, but I also think that Pete Carroll has given Geno Smith every opportunity to win the starting job. He was the starting quarterback from week 1, running with the ones. He was the starting quarterback in the first preseason game against Pittsburgh. So he's the incumbent. He knows the offense. As I told Larry earlier, the guys like him. He's not an a-hole. He knows the offense. He treats people the right way, blah, blah, blah. All those cliches that you guys have heard a million damn times already. But I think that Pete Carroll, what he wants is for Geno Smith to have the job. And then if Drew Lock gets the job, he steps in and comes in as the Messiah behind Geno Smith. So then all of a sudden the pressure is not as high as it would have been if he was fending off Geno Smith. So I think this is the way to go if you're Pete Carroll. I think it's the right thing to do. You're going to stink either way. Let Geno Smith start the opener. Let him go 10 for 24 for 120 yards, an average 5 yards an attempt. Let him go 1-3, and then let Drew Lock come in and save the day.
Rye, you got a question for the great Softy?
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to bring up is just the fact that I know that maybe it would have been a little bit more of a competition if Drew Lock hadn't gotten COVID and could have played in week 2. But, I mean, I don't know if you've already covered this, but as far as just the value of bringing Jimmy in and maybe getting some of that, stealing some stuff from the Niners and that familiarity and whatnot. So is your position at this point just the Niners or the Seahawks are going to stink this year and it's just like it's whatever?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're a 6-11 football team, maybe 7-10 at best if a couple of things go your way. And honestly, I would rather be 3-14 than 8-9. You know, especially in the NFL. It's like the NBA.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
The only thing is like, so I mean, do you think that's Pete Carroll's way? It seems like he's a guy who just wants to win every year. I mean, they drafted Kenneth Walker. They drafted a running back super early. That seems like a win now.
Yeah, I think Pete Carroll is the most optimistic bastard walking the face of the earth. But I also think that he realizes and he knows, by the way, I am very distracted right now. There is a blonde walking by me. Holy cow. Anyway, what was that question? I think he understands.
The camera goes both ways, Dave.
Exactly.
You don't have to give us the facial there.
You guys are too young to see that stuff. I know that there's a part of Pete Carroll that wants to win. There's a part of Pete Carroll that believes that with the right attitude, they can win as many games as he thinks they can, but I also think he's not stupid. This is not the year to go mortgaging the future for a quarterback. I mean, for what? For Baker, for Jimmy Garoppolo, for Sam Darnold if he becomes available. So go get a difference maker. The last time the Hawks went after a quarterback in the draft, they found a difference maker, and that's what they need to do again next year. So you write it out with Gino, write it out with Drew, hope to win a bunch of games 13-10. Maybe you win 9 games or you go 8-9 and you find a way to sneak into the playoffs. If there's ever a year, by the way, where an 8-9 team could make the playoffs, it's this year because I think the NFC is wide open, by the way. Wide open this year. Literally wide open. So I would not be shocked if an 8-9 team made a wild card. But, okay, fine. If you can do that, great. Then Pete Carroll can rah, shish, kumbah, toot his own horn. Look at what we did. We lost Russell Wilson, and we still made the playoffs, and blah, blah, blah. And we're building something special here. Blah. Okay, fine. We're not looking to build something special. We're looking to win Super Bowls. And to do that, you need a quarterback. Or you have to be great at something. By the way, you like the effect when I put the mic close to my face?
Yeah, so
it really
it's very dramatic.
Emphasizes what I'm talking about when I do this to you guys.
Wow.
Wait, Dave, put it a little closer because then you know what? The reflection of your shade, we might be able to see that blonde.
You got to be great at something in the NFL, man. You got to be great at defense, great at running game, great at quarterback. You got to be awesome at something. And right now, this team is not awesome at anything. Okay, they might be above average on defense, but that's about it.
We got a couple good ones for you in the chat, Dave.
By the way, I got to do a show in like 15 minutes. You know
all right,
that, right?
We'll cut it in 5. We'll cut it in 5.
I thought you were done with this thing. Didn't you find a radio job with somebody?
I'm doing both, dude. I'm doing both.
You have become such a whore. It's unbelievable how big a whore you are.
Exactly.
My God.
Hey, who's going to be? First of all, is Carroll or Schneider in the hot seat? Or either? If someone says who's going to be more revered by the Seahawk fan base 10 years from now?
Oh, both of them. Are you kidding me? Pete Carroll and John Schneider can do whatever they want. All right. I mean, they took a team that was, obviously decent with Mike Holmgren, but you win a championship, you break the curse in Seattle for the first time since the '79 Sonics. Yeah, they pretty much can write their own check. And I'll turn this around because that's the building where all the upper management sits for the Seahawks. You know who's not? You know who's not in there right now? Likely the freaking owner, Jody Allen. I mean, I don't even know what Jody Allen's voice sounds like, for crying out loud. Honestly, hey, but you know what? Hey, good for her. She inherited the team from her brother. She'll eventually sell down the road. She's not stupid like Howard Schultz stupid. Howard Schultz sold the Sonics for like, I don't know, $1 million, and now the Thunder are worth like $4.5 million. So if that dumbass would have held on to the team, he would have quadrupled his money. So Jody Allen, at some point, and this is actually interesting, in the trust that Paul Allen left behind, you guys may not know this, it says that those assets, like the Blazers and Seahawks, do have to be liquidated because he wants the money to go towards more important. He wants the money to go towards more important stuff like, I don't know, brain research and concussion research and rockets and cancer research and things like that. So eventually she's going to have to sell the team. But if she waits 5 or 6 years, this franchise might be worth $10 billion. Honestly, why would you get rid of it now when you don't have to? Hang on to it for as long as you can.
Dave, last one for you, and we appreciate the time, brother. Give me some. Paint the picture of Seahawk camp. Is there a surprise? Is there somebody you guys are talking about? What is there? Anybody creating buzz there?
I'm painting the picture for Seahawk camp. There's some grass. Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
Okay. And here's the surprising part. There's some dead grass right there.
Right.
I'm very surprised by that. Here's more fans. Say hello. There you go. Okay. Very excited to see them.
One mask, one maskless.
There's a couple of guys. One of them, his name is Tariq Woolen. He's a rookie cornerback from San Antonio.
Yes.
And he ran a 4.240.
How's he looking?
And he looks really good. And he is a project for sure. He's only played like 16 games at cornerback. One of the guys I work with, Hugh Millen, who played in the NFL for 12 years, said he was the least prepared draft pick the Seahawks have ever selected under the Carroll Schneider regime.
Wow.
I mean, the guy's like, can't even spell football, right? But he shows up here, and he's got these unbelievable arms. He's got like a 43-inch vertical leap. He runs a 4.240 at 6'4", and he's a freak of nature. So keep an eye on the name Tariq Woolen. He may end up starting. I'm not kidding you. He may end up starting for this football
team. How about
team.
Walker?
Yes.
Is Walker over the hernia?
Walker's got a hernia, baby. Walker's got a groin. Walker's got something that Pete Carroll said it's a groin, but it's not really what you and me would describe as a typical sports hernia. So that shit ends up lasting for weeks. You guys know that, right? Like the only thing worse than a hernia is the high ankle sprain, and that'll last for months. So who knows what's going on with him? But Rashad Penny was already banged up because that's what he does. He wakes up and he pulls something. He gets hurt. He gets hurt by just looking in the mirror, for crying out loud. So I like the running backs when they're healthy, but I just don't know if they can stay healthy.
Can I sneak one more question?
Go ahead, quickly.
No, you're done. You're out. You're done.
Okay,
No more.
what teams can make it out of the NFC and go to the Super Bowl?
Off
the top of your head.
LA, the Rams, the Green Bay Packers.
Yep.
Bucks. Right.
I think those three teams would be on my list. I mean, Dallas, I'm just not a believer in Dak Prescott yet, to be honest with you. Minnesota, no. Niners, no. Cardinals, no. The Bears, no. The Lions, no. The Commanders, no. The Giants, no. The Eagles, no. But that's my point.
Yeah.
That if we're only talking about three teams that we really feel like we could ride to a Super Bowl, Green Bay, Dallas, and the Rams, then you got 4 spots, man. This thing's wide freaking open. You might see a team go 5-12 and make the freaking playoffs.
Hey, 30 seconds left here.
God, it was 30 seconds to go.
30 seconds
I gotta
left.
go, man. Come on.
30 seconds left. Jimmy Garoppolo becomes a Seahawk. Dave Softy Mahler goes on KGR and says,
let's ask this guy. Let's ask him right there. You want Jimmy Garoppolo playing for the Seahawks?
I don't have any opinion.
He has no opinion. Which means we're done.
Dave?
Means we're done.
No opinion for you?
I am so indifferent on Jimmy G. Honestly, I mean, fine, bring him on board just to see your head spin down there in San Francisco. The better question would be, what are you people going to do if Jimmy Garoppolo comes to Seattle, leads these guys to a 10-7 record, and sneaks into the NFC Championship, and on that Sunday morning you wake up with the realization that porn star Jimmy Garoppolo is one game away from the freaking Super Bowl? What are you going to do? What are you going to do, Larry? What are you going to do, Larry?
I'm going to vomit
Trey
on
Lance.
YouTube.
Trey Lance has, you know what Trey Lance has proven? Jack shit. That's what Trey Lance has proven. And you're going to watch Trey Lance go 5-12, and Jimmy G, porn star Jimmy, is coming to Seattle. He's going to go 10-7 and lead us to a Super Bowl, and you're going to be crying your freaking brains out the entire offseason.
Wait a second. Bad connection.
Yeah.
I think we got to go now. I think we got to go. It's a bad connection.
Where's Radnich? Get a real pro on here.
Dave, be well, my friend.
You guys.
Great performance. There we go. Dave Softy Mahler. Oh, my God. Calba Kamiga. How confident is the fan base in Carroll and Schneider's regime, their ability to transform the roster? Do they think a change is needed at coach and GM? Well, he says they're there. They're there. So it doesn't sound like they're going anywhere. All right, the great Softy Mahler. He's not excited about Jimmy G, the idea that Jimmy G could be a Seahawk.
But the thing I don't understand is Drew Lock is a nothing burger. He maybe had a chance to compete for the job, but this whole COVID thing screwed everything up. Geno Smith has never, not one time has he ever proven that he can be a reliable starting quarterback in the league. So, I mean, I get being like, well, what's the point of getting Jimmy? Like, we're not going to win the Super Bowl. But, I mean, I don't know. Maybe to try and make the playoffs? Like, I don't know. That's not so bad.
I actually think if Jimmy went there and played his best game, I think Seattle has an outside shot of a playoff spot in a very thin NFC. Very thin. So I think Dave's kind of overlooking this thing. Let me ask you this, too, since we're talking a little Jimmy here. Welcome to the Krueg Show. as we come to you now with, after we had talked to Dave Softy Mahler up in Seahawks camp. And we wanted to visit with Softy because I wanted to find out what his, official position is. Flav donates $4.99, says, one more. What is the Seahawks fan base impression of Trey Lance? Do they think the Niners will be better or worse with him? Well, you heard Softy. Softy says he hasn't done jack S. So that's going to be Softy's take on Trey Lance. But if Softy loved Trey Lance, he still would not say so. He's not going to give that to us either way.
Yeah.
But I do think it is interesting. With Haha jumps here on the chat, says every fan base thinks they're too good for Jimmy G until they start 0-2, and then a reality sets in. Yeah, it's like there's all kinds of teams. We don't need Jimmy G. Yeah, but you've got Drew Lock and you've got Geno Smith, and you may have a decent offensive line for the first time. Cross looks good at left tackle, and they've got some nice runners, and their defense is maybe a little improved. So maybe they are a good quarterback away. But it sounds like the sentiment, at least from Dave and some of the media people there, is that they'd rather tank. They'd rather tank the year, get a premier guy in the draft, and wind up with a top 5 pick. That's a team that has done an awful lot of winning under Russell Wilson in recent years. It's almost like they're looking for a reset. But let me ask you this, Rye, because, if Matt Mayoko's report yesterday, where he came out and said, yeah, the 49ers kind of expect Jimmy G to wind up in Seattle. If that is indeed the case, then it's almost like, hey, you know what? We are just waiting to the 11th hour to make sure that Seattle doesn't get Jimmy G even a day before, the last possible thing. We're going to play this aggressive. What happened to we're going to work together to find Jimmy a home? What happened to we've got multiple second round picks on the table? Is it as simple as the market changed after Jimmy had the shoulder surgery and less bidders were out there? Is it the market never really changed and nobody wants Jimmy at the price tag that he's at, and so they were never going to get anything for him? If you're the 49ers, if Jimmy G does have some, allies in the Niner locker room, which I'm sure he does, how is that going to play if they don't get anything for him? And it's clear to everybody after this thing comes down that they basically just held him on the side away from Seattle to not let him get down the road, to not let him get accustomed to Seattle's offense. That doesn't seem like we're working together for the best outcome. That seems like we're absolutely not working together, and it's a competitive situation, and we're not going to give even an inch. We don't care what Jimmy's done for us in the past. We don't care what kind of goodwill, he spoke of before. We're not relinquishing control until, because we think he's going to Seattle, and we don't want him to be there even an hour early because that's an hour more that he has to prep to beat us. That seems very petty for an organization that came across with, we're going to work together with Jimmy to find the best solution. Doesn't seem like they're working together, does it? Am I reading that wrong?
No, you're totally not. And if you look at the way that the Patriots treated Jimmy. I mean, Jimmy didn't take them to a Super Bowl. Jimmy didn't take them to an NFC championship. He didn't help turn around their culture. He was just a backup for Tom Brady, and Belichick really liked him and appreciated how hard he worked and how, the guys really liked him. And he said, you know what? I'll take a second round pick and I'll send him to a destination where I think he will find success with the 49ers and the Kyle Shanahan offense. This couldn't be any different. I mean, it does come down to, though, is it as simple as the quarterback musical chairs started, Jimmy G got surgery, and then everybody found a seat? And now it's kind of like, even teams like, let's talk Mitchell Trubisky or Mariota in Atlanta. It's sort of like, once you get these guys in the building, everybody starts talking themselves into them. So, maybe it's going to take till week 3 or week 4 till people realize, like, oh crap, we're starting, or like, the Jets. Oh my God, we're going to play 4 or 5 games with Joe Flacco starting. Like, Jimmy G could easily win the starting job. I'd say probably on half of that teams in the NFL. So,
it's interesting. I mean, and yet so many teams had a chance to work something out with the 49ers and nobody did. So it makes you wonder if it was just about his price tag, or if maybe he's not viewed as favorably as that record. Maybe people view Kyle Shanahan as a big contributor to that incredible record that Jimmy has here in San Francisco as the starter, and don't attribute that success necessarily to Jimmy himself. I don't know. I don't know how he's viewed in everybody else's personnel room. And I don't know how he's viewed if you separate him from the contract. If you separate him from that contract, I bet you there's 12 teams that want him. But at that contract, there's probably no teams that want him. And I think that's probably his reality. Jimmy Robinson says here in the chat, he says, John and Kyle have to look out for the best interest of the 49ers franchise. I get that, but doesn't that seem... doesn't that seem extreme when they've stated they wanted to work together to help him find a new home, to then wait till basically week 1 of the season and then cut him loose? That seems like a very aggressive move. Now, you could argue that maybe Jimmy having the shoulder surgery was an aggressive move, but then the counter is, well, doesn't he have to be healthy? I mean, if he's not healthy, if his body needed a surgery, then it needed a surgery. I don't think it was elective surgery. I think it was surgery that he had to have. So as far as the timing of that surgery and how it relates to a trade, that's a great question. I don't know. Maybe they came to the point where nobody wanted to trade for him until that was officially in the rear view. And so it had to come in that order first, the surgery and then the new home. Maybe nobody wanted to take any kind of a leap of faith in Jimmy's direction until they knew what the results of the surgery were going to be. So, and it wasn't like it was voluntary elective surgery. It was a surgery that he had to have. So, according to the reports I've read. So I don't know what to say about this, but it does make it kind of interesting. It makes it seem like, one, the 49ers are not going to get anything for Jimmy Garoppolo. 2, it makes you wonder about Jed York's bluff the other day where he said, hey, we can leave the guy on the roster. I did the segment with Grant Cohn. He said he expects Jimmy to be on the roster. So he thinks that maybe the 49ers won't cut him loose. So, I mean, what side are you on here? Do you think, is it in the best interest of the 49ers? What is in the best interest of the 49ers? And is it about the best interest of the 49ers on the field this year? Or is it about the best interest of the 49ers on the cap going forward? Because on the field this year, you could make a very compelling argument that it makes all the sense in the world to have Jimmy there. But if it's about your long-term cap health, obviously, if that's the priority, then moving on from Jimmy becomes the primary focus of the whole thing. But here's my question. Will there be any pushback from any of the veteran players about how Jimmy was handled, or how the Niners handled the situation, if indeed they get nothing for him in a trade, and it comes out that basically they just held him up this entire time because they didn't want him to go to Seattle sooner and they'd rather him go later? Is that going to be viewed as smart? Because, man, you get never give up any competitive quarter and you're in charge of your own team? Or is that going to be looked at as an aggressive move on Jimmy by guys in that locker room? And some of the veterans are going to suddenly not feel so good about the direction that the front office is going in, because they may say that, it doesn't have to be logical. It doesn't have to be right. But there may be some sentiment that say, you know what? You did Jimmy wrong. You did Jimmy wrong. This guy took you here and there and played hurt at the end of the year, so on and so forth. And you didn't let him get on to his next home until the cut down date, all to avoid him practicing for 2 or 3 weeks in preparation for facing you. And isn't that just kind of, especially if he winds up in Seattle, doesn't that put a chip on his shoulder? Doesn't it almost challenge them to, in some ways, it challenges them to be like, let's see if we can now take a quarterback off the street that doesn't know our system, or at least hasn't been practicing in our system. And let's see if we can beat the 49ers with their guy. We'll take their quarterback and we'll beat them with their quarterback. And then how sweet will that win be? So, for the Seattle fans and for the Seattle players. So I don't know. I mean, there was a lot of different ways the 49ers could have played their hand here. You could make an argument they made the best moves for their franchise. You could also make an argument that they incited their opponent and put a huge chip on Jimmy's shoulder. Jimmy smiling for the cameras and saying and doing all the right things, but he could have a slow burn on the Niners for not letting him out of the situation at a more reasonable time frame so he could get ready for his season. But the counter is they don't owe you anything. They paid you big money for it, and this is the situation. So I don't know. I mean, there's lots of different ways to look at this. That's for sure. I mean, you could spin this any number of ways.
I mean, that's why. Okay, with I get what Dave's saying, but at the same time, he just said that in his mind there's like 3 locks to be competing to make it to the Super Bowl out of the NFC. The Rams, Stafford's already having injury or like issues with his shoulder. Brady, kind of a weird situation going on there. Now there's rumors that he was, trying to go to the Raiders and join up with Josh McDaniels, and their O-line's hurt and his weapons are hurt. And then there's Rodgers, whose weapons are all gone. So it's like those 3 teams aside from those 3 teams and those 3 quarterbacks, who in the NFC has a quarterback that is like, unquestionably better than Jimmy Garoppolo? I guess you could maybe say Kyler Murray. Yeah, you could maybe say Kyler. After that, it's like
Green Bay, Arizona, Tampa Bay.
Yeah. So like Brady, Rodgers,
maybe
Stafford,
Minnesota,
but like nothing that's like that much better.
Dallas, maybe
Dallas. So that's what my kind of feeling is like. When at the end of the day, a lot of times it comes down to coach and quarterback. If you have Pete Carroll and Jimmy Garoppolo, as far as I'm concerned, all it takes is an injury or two to a couple of key quarterbacks, and who knows, they could make a remarkable run to the playoffs and maybe go deep.
Danny O says Leroy Phillips rumor going on Niners Nation. Says Giants are talking, the New York Giants are talking with the 49ers about a possible trade before the end of the month. They're not happy with Daniel Jones. Well, that would be interesting. What would you want from the New York Giants? Would you, I'll say this, maybe Trent, Trey Sermon could be involved in that deal. Yeah. Maybe you could get a Kadarius Toney. Maybe you could get who would you rather have if the Giants said, here's Daniel Jones or Tyrod Taylor? You get your pick. You want Tyrod, who's more of a career backup, but is more of a veteran and could be, do you want a quarterback coming back now that you've got Purdy sitting right there and Sudfeld who knows your system? Maybe you don't want a quarterback coming back. I personally would love to. I mean, I've made my point perfectly clear on about 19 different social media platforms, but I think Brock Purdy is good. Okay, I think he's good. I mean, I think the people that compare him to Nick Mullins don't know what the hell they're watching. And to me, if they cut him, I think he does wind up. If I'm Seattle, I'd rather have Purdy than have Garoppolo. Garoppolo, you've got a veteran there, and yeah, it's still going to cost you, even if it's not going to cost you 25. It's probably going to cost you half that. He's Don Yee's not going to sign him up for nothing. So you want to pay $10-12 million for Garoppolo, or you could have Purdy off the waiver wire if the Niners are foolish enough to cut him loose. Based on what I've seen, I'd like to see Purdy. Throw strikes. He's calm. He clearly can operate a system. He operated the 2-minute drill to perfection. That first preseason game, he worked the clock down like a 10-year vet. He does some things that are really, really veteran-like. Purdy does some things that Jimmy Garoppolo to this day doesn't do. Now, Jimmy's a little bigger. Jimmy's got a better arm. Jimmy's a better overall, NFL-sized athlete. He's a little bit bigger, a little stronger. But Purdy's faster. Purdy, I think, is as tough as it gets.
I don't know if we can say that. I just because I hold Jimmy's toughness like way up there.
Purdy, I mean, we just saw Purdy take a massive hit. He's willing to run. He just dove head first the other night. If you believe the reports, he plays with a linebacker-like mentality. This is the same offseason where Julian Edelman and Martellus Bennett were calling Jimmy soft for not playing with injuries. So, I mean, that's what I'm basing that on. I mean, Jimmy's plenty tough too. I'm just saying Purdy's cheap. and tough and accurate. I think he's more. I mean, Brock Purdy completed 71% of his passes last year and was like 30-14 for Iowa State career. So I don't know. He played at a better conference than Jimmy G played in, and he had as good or better numbers across the board. So I don't know. We'll see. I know everybody's like, oh my God, Jimmy G's a established guy. Purdy's smallish. So they see Mullins and they're like, oh, he's Mullins. No, he's not Mullins. He's not Mullins. I think he's quite a bit better than Mullins. So maybe the Niners don't want a quarterback coming back. I will say this, of the New York Giants players, I love Kadarius Toney.
I'd love that.
I think he would be a phenomenal guy to add to this receiving core, especially if you're just looking for one more difference maker, guy. So I don't know. It's very, very, very interesting. Yeah. Zachary Couch, Brock Purdy equals Larry's man crush. Yeah. Well, I got to admit, I'll have to cop to it because I think Brock Purdy is a whole lot better than people who are comparing him to Nick Mullins. Jimmy Robinson says John Lynch on CamBR was asked what the timeline looks like when the 49ers release Jimmy Garoppolo if there's no trade. However, his first words were, I think we're getting pretty close. So, yeah, I think we're probably getting pretty close as well because the cut down day is what day? What day do they have to be at 53? It's coming up here. It's coming up.
I'll look it up.
Saturday.
Do you think that there's any possibility of a restructuring of some sort and keeping Jimmy and sort of just holding out for that
him for multiple years?
But just or just, I don't know, adjusting the contract. I don't know why he would do that. Jimmy actually holds a lot of the cards here, but I just don't like in terms of
his contract's not guaranteed. He would do it because his contract's not guaranteed and he doesn't have a place to play. And who knows what's out there for him?
Anonymous says September 10th.
September 10th.
I would have to think that if he got cut, that there would be
no. It's not. Can't be September 10th, right? Maybe that's when the contract takes effect. But the cut down day is not the day before the season. It's the day. It's the Saturday before that. I think it's like the 3rd, isn't it? See when the cut down to 53 is.
Or the 30th.
30th. Okay, yeah, the 30th. Yeah, so by the 30th,
a week from today.
Yep, that's it. That's the day. August 30th, J Stamps 101. He says August 30th is the final roster cut down. Whatever's going to happen with Garoppolo is happening probably either on or by that day. So we're getting down to it. It's a week from today. So exactly, we're 1 week away from getting resolution on the Garoppolo thing. But once again, if they cut him loose, is that an aggressive move by the Niners or just business as usual? And will anybody view it as an aggressive move, or will they say, no, you know what? Everybody's got their big boy pants on and will there be any pushback from any of the veteran players? Will there be anybody who goes on the record? Heck, they just went to Minnesota and they asked Ayuk about it. He's like, it was worthless. So, there are guys in the room that are willing to speak their mind against the wills and wishes of the front office and the head coach. Will anybody come out and say, you know what? I know everybody was cool with it, but I think the Niners did Jimmy wrong. Yeah. Will anybody be on the record and saying that? I wonder.
Yeah, the difficult thing is, I was reading Mark Hope's message here. Larry and Ryan, it's getting late with last preseason game coming up. I would keep Jimmy G on roster. I don't think Lance is healthy for 17 games. Niners need a quality backup. # chicken ass is good. Defense too. That's for everybody that tunes into the Giants post games. Get that one.
Yes, complete.
So the one thing is Jimmy, being at camp and at practice, Jimmy is at most, he's working out a little bit on the side. Seems like he's kind of, he is not at all part of this team. That's how it feels to me.
No, he's not. He's not attending meetings. He's not trying to get to know anybody. They're not trying to assimilate him to the rest of the roster. If they put him on the roster now, I think that would be a huge indication of a change of thought process.
Seriously.
That would be very dramatic if they did that.
And I just honestly, I don't want to keep, even though there's the possibility of Lance getting hurt and then we could have Jimmy. I just don't want the controversy, all that. It's just not worth it, man. It's just not worth it.
To what?
it's not worth it to keep Jimmy even as a backup, like in case of injury.
That,
the drama.
Forget keeping him, because it sounds like Shanahan's already kind of stated, hey, we're going in this direction. We're going with Trey. Yeah. But will there be a 49er player that says that the front office did Jimmy wrong by waiting till the 11th hour to release him? Or will that be just viewed as, par for the course? You know what? That's what you do. Or will there be somebody bold enough to come out and call out Shanahan and Lynch and the Niners and say, hey, this guy played hurt for you. This guy was your leader. This guy may not have been as good as you wanted him to be, but he gave you everything he had, and you didn't let him move on with his career in a timely fashion. Does it play that way? Or do people say, no, it's on Jimmy. He had the shoulder surgery. He had to get healthy. Yeah, they could have traded him last month when he started to work out, when he had the physical and he proved that he was healthy. But, they had no obligation to help him. They did what was best for them.
I think that I get the feeling that the communication is pretty strong between Lynch, Shanahan, and the team, and D'Amico, and it just seems like a very tight-knit group. Then everybody has a very similar mindset. My guess would be that there was communication to the roster, specifically, maybe guys like Kittle or Debo, guys that really were close with Jimmy. I think that there was communication. I think that it is.
Everybody's in the know except for the media. Everybody's in the know. Jimmy's not barking. Ye's not barking.
Yeah.
None of the players have barked. Nobody's said a single thing about this. Everybody's handling it just, totally professionally. Maybe there's been enough dialogue by all parties that everybody knows the deal. But it does seem it's extreme. It's extreme if you held him to the last day and then he winds up in the division starting against you in literally a couple weeks. You could say it was smart, but you could also say it was somewhat vindictive. It's just just your perspective. Giants, Niners fan. I agree, Larry, on Purdy. He has natural instincts. You can't teach that. Yeah. The Purdy stuff, I understand he's kind of smallish, but the guy's played a lot of football and you can tell he goes to the line of scrimmage. He knows where he's supposed to go with the football. And because of it, see, a lot of the things about your footwork and your mechanics, it's all tied to your ability to first recognize what the defense is giving you and understand what play you're running and understand where, what you have to do to get the ball out on time to your receiver. It's clear watching Brock Purdy that even though he's 6'1" and change instead of 6'4", even though he's 220 instead of 235, even though his arm's more of a 7 instead of a 9 or a 10, that his recognition pre-snap of what he's looking at coverage-wise is advanced. His ability to then use that knowledge to contort his body and get his footwork in the proper throwing, mechanics is just, he's in lockstep. That play where he did a bootleg and he had the defender right on him and he basically didn't panic at all. Just kept backpedaling, created a little space, kind of created a little fake, got the defender to move aside, and then made a nice, accurate, under control throw to the receiver in the flat. That looks like, hey, no problem, walk in the park. How many quarterbacks can't make that play? Kaepernick struggled with it. Garoppolo struggles with it. There's all kinds of guys who struggle with it. Only truly the best of the best make that play like the layup that it should be. Rodgers and Brady and Russell and a few others make that play. There's all kinds of NFL quarterbacks who panic and take the sack and get that ball deflected. And Purdy just open space, kept the feet moving. You can see his advanced abilities. At least I can see it. And I see a guy who's steely and calm and confident and tough and smallish without an overwhelming arm, but a guy who's like almost a perfect backup quarterback. Why? Because he's a rookie, so he costs you nothing.
Yes. He's
on a rookie deal, but he's like a veteran because he's made 40 some odd starts in college, and you can't throw a coverage at him that's gonna make him, flinch, and you're not going to show him looks that he's never seen. He's done the reps.
Mayoko's
knows where he's going with it.
when we were driving home, Mayoko, part of his point, and this is just a bananas stat, I'm not sure if it actually, it's close enough that it's worth saying, is that if you combine, college plus pro, if you combine the amount of throws made by Trey Lance and Nate Sudfeld, it's about the same as as Purdy has just alone. So
yeah, Purdy's just more experienced than these other guys combined. But my point is just that he has requisite arm strength.
Yes.
I've seen the difference between, this guy can't make the throws. I see a pretty accurate quarterback, but more than anything, I see a guy who's calm. Yeah. And, he took some hits in this last game, and he was playing behind a Swiss cheese line of guys who weren't necessarily doing it. And he had a game where they had 4 drops, but he didn't go in the tank. He completed like 70% of his passes and ran the 2-minute drill to near perfection and threw dimes. I mean, it was just flat dimes. Dime. Everything was just on the money.
Honestly, watching Kenny Pickett the other night was sort of like, Brock Purdy's not to Pickett's level, but I was seeing a lot of the same things where I could really see the Steelers going with Pickett because there was that just calm. There's the timing, all that stuff that normally takes quarterbacks, 3-4 years to develop. They both are ready made. That was the first thing that jumped out to me with Purdy, watching the Purdy offense in camp. And then the way when it switched to Lance, obviously Lance can do way more, but Lance gets the ball and he will hold it a little bit. He'll hold it a little bit to wait for a bigger play to develop, to maybe improvise a little. Purdy is like, it's you snap him the ball and it's out. And that the chemistry between wide receivers and quarterbacks is so freaking underrated. And the fact that he was just rolling into camp with these receivers he's never thrown to, and the fact that his timing and his rhythm was that good, I do feel like he's like a ready-made backup for 10 years in the league with at least in my opinion, with like maybe low-end starter potential.
Yeah,
last pick in the draft. I
think he's got more potential than that, but I would say that's a floor. Calba Kamiga says if they expose Purdy to waivers, he'll be like Jeff Driscoll. Somebody will claim him. I'll say this, the one thing when you watch Purdy run, it's almost always because he's been given a lane and he takes off.
Yeah.
If you watch Trey Lance run, oftentimes there is no lane. He just is late in his recognition. And so the window opens, the window closes. He goes to throw it, knows it's going to be a pick, tucks it in and runs. Is there a lane there? No, not necessarily. I've seen him take off to run just because the window closed. So like you're seeing Trey Lance throw picks in practice, but you're also seeing him run. And sometimes you're like, oh, well, he can run, so that's probably a good move. Not necessarily. When you see quarterbacks running a lot in practice, a lot of times that means just the window closed and they don't want to throw it late, so they're just going to take off and run at that point. And that's what I'm seeing. And I stand behind the quarterback sometimes. I just see a guy that he occasionally runs if there's a lane, but he also runs when he's just missed the window. And in the NFL, that's usually a sack. Because you're not really running there because they're in practice. They're not really rushing you the same way. Haha says, Larry, I missed it. I missed it as he is thrown a 15 to 20 yard out though.
Oh, then he went on to say, I want to see him make that 15 to 20 yard out to like the boundary.
Yeah.
That's the only thing
has been high. He misses a lot high. That's the common denominator. It's more than anything, but it's your mechanics and your accuracy are also tied to your awareness of the play and where you're going with the ball. And then just when you watch Brock Purdy, he sees it. Yeah. He sees the whole thing. And even plays that weren't complete, they're right there. They're right there. He's putting the ball on the hands repeatedly. To me, he looks quite a bit better than Sudfeld. Now, Sudfeld's looked pretty good too, but Sudfeld, I really believe, clears waivers because Sudfeld's been out there for a couple of years and he doesn't have a big arm. He didn't have a ton of success in college like Purdy. He's not the new flavor of the month. Nobody scouted him in the last draft and we're hoping to get him. There were teams that were hoping to get Brock Purdy. The other reason I don't understand all the people saying, well, they're going to cut him. They're going to cut him. They're going to cut him. I don't get that either because the 49ers had the last pick in the draft.
Yes.
If they just liked him, they could have waited till after the draft, but then they would have had to win a bid against all these other teams for him. So somebody in that Niner personnel department thought enough of Brock Purdy to say, you know what? And yeah, we could try to get him to come here, but let's just draft him because then we don't have to compete with all these other teams for his services. So somebody believes in Brock Purdy. And to me, that belief has been rewarded by the preseason. I mean, my goodness, he has played. It's not just that he sees it. It's not just that he's accurate. It's that he doesn't make a lot of wasted steps. He doesn't make a lot of stupid moves. He seems like he's a veteran player who, and the difference, it's like we all see the difference between success and failure for a quarterback. It's all the same. I mean, the coverage is the same. Some guys can thread the needle and get it there. Some guys throw it a little too early. Some guys throw it a little too late. Some guys don't throw it accurately. So ultimately, the bottom line is, do you move the football team when you're on the field? And we've now watched Brock Purdy, I think, in a couple of games. If you take away drops that were totally on the receiver, you're talking about a guy who's completing 75% of his passes and has been deadly accurate and looks very, very calm and very, very sure of himself as far as his mechanics. There's no way I'm cutting that player. And there's no way I don't think there's any chance in hell that they could pass him through waivers based on how he's played and not have 3 or 4 teams pick him up. So, or at least, put in waiver claims for him. So if you want to keep him, I would say if you want to keep both, even, I would rather see them keep both and steal from their D line or some other spot of the roster than expose Purdy to waivers, hoping that nobody claims him, hoping that nobody noticed that he's just been throwing strikes in the 2 preseason games. And then what if he comes out in this 3rd preseason game and throws more strikes? Then it's like even more cements the situation. But I will say this. A couple of the beat writers came up to me and were like, Krueg, you're saying he's a lock to make the roster? In my mind, I'm not looking at what they're looking at. I'm looking at the talent. I saw the same practice that you guys saw, and I saw him get no reps as well. And so, if I had been watching that practice and going solely off that practice, I would say, a couple days before the cutdown date and Sudfeld and Lance are getting all the reps, I'd be cocky too that, they're going to cut Purdy based on what I saw this week. I got to hope that that's not the game plan because I don't think he's going to sneak through waivers. And if a guy like Purdy, who you drafted, wound up in Seattle, really Jimmy or Purdy, if either guy winds up in Seattle and Seattle winds up going to the playoffs and winning double digits and you wind up not, there's going to be a price to be paid for that. There's going to be lots of complaining and lots of hand-wringing and lots of dump this guy and what the hell's going on. So, just remember that. It's not like, oh, you know what? You cut a free safety. Or a couple of years ago, they drafted the Stanford tight end, Caden Smith. They cut him. He wound up going to the New York Giants. It's not the same. You're talking about a quarterback. If you cut an NFL starting quarterback, man, especially after you passed on Mahomes and Watson for Hoyer and Beathard to start this thing off. If Trey gets off to a bumpy start and, Purdy and Garoppolo are starting games in the NFL and winning games, you'll be shocked at how fast the Shanahan-Lynch goodwill erodes.
Yes. And I do want to say, because I don't want anyone that is just jumping in the stream or whatever thinking, okay, Eamon says, I'm sorry, now you're on Brock Purdy and Trey is struggling. You guys don't stop. Sarah Costa says Trey Lance equals Tim Tebow. This is not This has nothing to do about Lance. It has nothing to do with Lance whatsoever. Lance is the guy, unquestioned, not even a second thought.
And we're believers in
saying,
Lance.
I'm a believer we're just saying Lance. That Purdy is like, as far as having a backup quarterback, he's cheap, he's accurate, he doesn't turn the ball over, he looks, because he's so poised, he doesn't look like he's going to get injured. So it's just one of those things where we're going a little in depth on the Niners roster. It has nothing to do, doesn't mean that we're propping one up to tear the other down the way some people do. That's not at all what we're talking about. I
believe, I was one of the first people who believed in Lance. I told you I believed in Lance. Yeah. I still believe in Lance. Lance is going to get it done. Lance is got huge potential. It's going to take time. I'm just saying there's going to be some bumps in the road. And what Lance doesn't do right now, this kid does with ease. So all I'm saying is it's nice to have one guy in your quarterback room who's kind of like a veteran. And they have an ideal candidate because he's kind of like a veteran because he's played a ton, but he's on a rookie deal. So you get the best of all worlds. You get a young guy with a cheap price tag, and yet you've got you've got the best of all worlds. He can help Trey watch film and see the nuances of coverage, and even help Brian Greasy coach up the other guys in the room, and he can actually do it himself, and he doesn't cost you a lot of money. Mark Hope donates $2. He says, thanks. What's your Jimmy G cut or dealt percentage? Hashtag Purdy era. Well, I would say it sounds like it's about 85% that he'll be cut and about 15% that he'll be dealt.
Right there with you, Lair.
Somewhere in there, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, seriously, it's going to kind of take something because, I mean, ultimately, my opinion is that the Niners are playing high stakes poker, and it's similar to the Brown situation where everybody in the know in the league said, Baker's going to Carolina, and it basically was worked out. But unfortunately, there was no other team that they were bidding against, so they kept trying to get more and more and more, and eventually just had to let him go for a 5th round pick. I think we're facing a similar situation here with Jimmy, where they are just hoping that, somebody goes down this weekend, or, something kind of out of the ordinary happens, because it doesn't seem like there's a spot. There certainly is no spot where a team wants to trade for him and pay that $25 million. That just feels out of the question at this point with the season this close to happening.
Yeah, it's. I would say if you made Jimmy tomorrow a free agent, the Giants are interested, the Browns are interested, the Dolphins are probably interested, the Lions are probably interested, the Seahawks. Bears, I bet you, are interested. There's going to be 10 teams. Seahawks are going to be interested, the Rams are going to be interested. There's going to be teams out there that are going to be interested at the minimum. There's no teams interested, including the Niners, at $25 million. That's, in essence, the problem. That's the problem. It's a good quarterback with a great price tag, great quarterback price tag, and it's too late in the offseason. Nobody wants to pay a great price for a good product, especially one that gets hurt. And then also, this is where the Shanahan connection works against Jimmy G. There's a lot of people in the NFL that understand that Kyle Shanahan is a very good offensive play coach, and that his play calling and play sequencing is right there with the best offensive coaches in the game. So there's a belief that Jimmy, in some circles, I guarantee you that he's propped up by Kyle, that he's propped up by the talent around him, the Debos, the Ayuks, the Kittles, the run game, the defense. I think there's a lot of people around the league that aren't really sure exactly how good or not, how talented Jimmy Garoppolo is. I don't know that anybody has a real solid feel. They see him, believe me, they see the same things that we all see. They found a way to win the game last year against Green Bay, but if you watch the second half of that game, Jimmy threw 2 or 3 balls to the sidelines that could have been pick sixes. So essentially, he made 2 or 3 moves under pressure in that game that easily could have cost his team the win, and he would have been the GOAT. Instead, the 49ers won the game. And so you actually had people saying that he outplayed Rodgers, despite the fact Rodgers completed almost 80% of his passes that day in like 1 degree. and Jimmy almost threw multiple pick sixes. So a lot of times, Brian Billick said it for years. The hardest thing to do in the NFL is to separate the quarterback from what's going on around the quarterback. It's like if the quarterback wins, wow, look how great he was. If the quarterback loses, oh my God, he can't get it done. And, is Aaron Rodgers suddenly a bad who can't get it done? No, he has the world's worst special teams, and it cost him in the biggest game. He completed almost 80% of his passes on a freezing, terrible weather day at Lambeau Field. But to hear people talk about it, you would think that Rodgers threw multiple picks and sucked it up and he was the Reno. So there's just so much emphasis on the outcome, and then we'll spin the yarn based on the outcome instead of actually handicapping the quarterback, his accuracy, his ball placement, his, how well he took care of the football. Did he, was there anything there? Was he running for his life? Did he have time to throw? It's just, there's a lot of factors, and people are just like, oh, they won. Jimmy was great. Yeah. He outplayed Rodgers. He outplayed Rodgers. You got high. Did you watch that game? Rodgers outplayed him 10 times, 10 times over, but Jimmy's team got the win. So everybody kind of pointed the finger at Rodgers. So it's just kind of the way it is. It's just the way people view football.
And Eric Gomes is right. The truth is somewhere in the middle. And Jimmy G is he is a super fascinating test case for exactly what you just said about what Billick said. Because the tricky thing is, and I'll say most of the Niners media, at least the way I feel it, the people I listen to, don't give him any credit for making that Super Bowl run 19. They said, all he did was hand it off. You could put anybody back there. And
they ran the ball a ton against Minnesota and Green Bay.
And then the same thing this past year. But at the same point, it's like, I believe that Shanahan's the best play caller in the league. They don't win games when he doesn't play. So it is somewhere in the middle. And there's something
you
about
got to give him some credit. Yeah.
You got to give him some credit.
Yeah. No doubt. It's somewhere in the middle. As Eric Gomes just said, somewhere there in the middle for sure. Anonymous. Funny. Jimmy G is described like Brandon Belt. We'll get Dan in here and he'll start talking Giants baseball.
Pontificating.
And nobody's down on Trey Lance, by the way. Yeah. I'm not. Trey Lance is you need big playability. You need an athlete who can make plays with their arm, somebody who's got some high-end skills. So I have no problem with them passing on Mac Jones. I had no problem with them moving off of Jimmy Garoppolo for Trey Lance. I think you look around the NFL, for every Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers, a true pocket passer, there's somebody like a Mahomes or Josh Allen who's got escapability and the big-time arm and the ability to make plays off schedule and the ability to make plays late in the down and the ability to kind of put the team on their back, on their individual back, and just say, you know what, I'm getting this first down. So, there's, and I do believe that the movement ability of the defense in the NFL is so incredible now that you got to have a quarterback who has some mobility. Doesn't have to be Michael Vick. Doesn't have to be Steve Young. Doesn't have to be, somebody with crazy, ability to run, but movement ability with his, especially when linebackers are now Marcelino McCrary ball and you're facing, look at the sack breakdown in the NFL in the last 5 years. Fewer sacks for D tackles, fewer sacks for DNs, more sacks for linebackers, more sacks for safeties, more sacks for corners. Teams are rushing the quarterback with smaller players than ever before because speed wins. If you send a D tackle, Kyler Murray sidesteps Javon Kinlaw. If you send Sammy Womack, even though he's a corner, guess what? He's getting home because the quarterback can't sidestep Sammy Womack. So it's become so much more of a movement game. It's become so much more of how well do you move in space? Can you break down in space against an athlete and bring him to the ground? So on and so forth. It's not, linebackers no longer weigh 265 and 270 and run 4.7. They weigh 220 and they run 4.45, 4.52. And if you do run 4-7, guess what? The other team figures out where your guy who runs 4-7 is, and they put him up against a 4-3 receiver. They isolate him in space, and they burn him until you take him off the field. And so that's why the Niners are so high-end defensively, is that second level where they've got Warner and Greenlaw and Al-Shaair, and now they've added Marcelino McCrary-Ball and Demetrius Flanagan-Foles and Oren Burks. The Niner linebackers relatively fly. I mean, these guys run sideline to sideline. You want to run wide on them, go for it. They love when you run wide because they're going to pursue to the sideline faster than you're going to get there. So, it's a lot about speed has always been the game, but now we're seeing, basically some teams. I mean, Alex Barrett has rushed from the defensive tackle spot a lot this year. Arden Key, I think the Niners' best defensive front last year was that NASCAR package with Arden Key rushing from inside. You'll see Ebukam rush from inside this year. You're going to see Drake Jackson rush from inside this year, because getting 4 pass rushers is more important than putting that big physical 2-gapper run defender out there. And so now everybody on your D-line better rush the passer. And
absolutely,
ends can play inside, and teams don't even expose them against the run, because everybody's playing pass. It's like the sub package is 72% of the snaps. So you're in nickel and dime more than you're in the base.
It's the NBA-ification of the NFL that we've seen, where it's so
pace
much more
space.
It's pace and space, and it's versatility. You want linebackers that can play like safeties. You want running backs that can play like receivers. I mean, think about the running backs in the NFL now. If you talk about the top 5-6 running backs, the real blue chip guys, they can all run routes like receivers. And you're in that spread, and you send out your running back, and there's the threat of him running a route like a receiver. You get the defense to declare. You don't know what you're doing. Now look at Deebo Samuel. Deebo Samuel's a running back and a receiver. He's just a weapon. And we're seeing that all over. And I do think that Trey's mobility, I think that a lot of people talk about this, but I think that game when Josh Allen just absolutely housed the Niners, I think that put a little something in Kyle's mind. Like, man, if we're with the way the NFL's trending, if you really want to be able to compete against all teams in this league, you need a mobile quarterback. You just need it. It just takes away. So it gives you so many more options.
It's not just mobility. It's about making the defense defend every blade of grass.
Yeah.
So if you can run to the edges, they got to defend the width of the field. If you can throw it 50 yards down the field, they got to defend the deep quadrants of the field.
Yes.
Jimmy, they didn't even have to defend the intermediate quadrants outside the hashes or any of the deep quadrants of the field, because he just didn't make those throws. And then their numbers over time just kind of showed them. So what happens? What did you see happen a lot? As the down would extend, if Jimmy could extend the down, the defenders would cheat up, and they'd cheat to the middle of the field, and they would leave open spaces deep and outside the hashes. And Jimmy would throw it in the middle of the field. And so a lot of times he'd float it in the middle of the field, and there was all kinds of defenders there. Defenses will play the Niners more straight up, because now you've got Trey Lance and the ability to escape the pressure, buy himself some time, and then just wind up and throw one 50 yards down the field to Ayuk. So now there's more big play ability. There's more late in the down ability. And then Trey can throw the sideline pass. He can get it out there and flick it out there. And the window doesn't have to be wide open. It can just be partially open, and he can squeeze it in there because he's got that kind of arm. Now, he doesn't have the same release that Jimmy had. He doesn't have the same recognition. There's going to be bumps in the road. But, Trey, in theory, over time, as he gets coached up, you're going to have to defend the width of the field. You're going to have to defend the deep outs. You're going to have to defend the go pattern down the field, the deep post, and if he does get away and buys himself extra time, if you're defending Danny Gray and Ray McLeod, they've got home run ability. By the way, okay, so we're an hour and 20 minutes or so into the live stream. We'll just finish up with this. I went through an exercise last night. I decided to, by the way, Ken Mueller says Brock Purdy's better than the Giants' Daniel Jones. Way better. Daniel Jones, another guy, young, big-bodied, very fast, good arm strength, great mobility, but he doesn't see it. He doesn't throw any anticipatory throws. He doesn't see it. And the windows, by the time he does see it, the windows close, turns it over a lot. He's just mentally nowhere close to Brock Purdy as far as Purdy's recognition. And it's probably has a lot to do with experience. But I was going through the 53-man last night, just seeing who's going to make this team and who's not, at least going into the Houston game. And I don't know what the status of Mike McGlinchey's injury is as far as his knee, his quad, where he is. It sounds like they're going to go with Colton McKivitz at right tackle to start the year.
I like that idea.
Kalia Davis is on the NFI list, non-football injury. Jason Verrett was put on the PUP today. I don't know what they're going to do with Trey Sermon, but maybe he's dinged up enough where they could put him on an injured list or maybe even trade him. But this is what I've got, right? I've got two quarterbacks. I'm going Lance and Purdy, and I'm cutting Sudfeld. I'm going with 5 running backs plus Juszczyk, so technically 6. Juice, and then Elijah Mitchell, Ty Davis-Price, Jeff Wilson, Jordan Mason, Jermichael Hasty. So that means I'm cutting Trey Sermon or trading Trey Sermon. Not an easy call, but to me, the other guys have just been better. Tight end wise, I'm on this team. I'm going to steal a spot from tight end. They cut Tanner Hudson today, but George Kittle and Charlie Warner are my 2 tight ends, and then I'll use an offensive lineman as a jumbo package blocker. If I have to use Poe or one of my backup offensive linemen, I will, and I'll use Juwan Jennings as my flexed out tight end if I ever go 3 tight end package. So I'm going with 2 tight ends. I'm stealing a roster spot there. I'm going thin at wide receiver. Debo, Ayuk, Jennings, Ray McLeod, and Danny Gray. So that means I'm cutting Tay Martin, which I don't want to do, but I'm doing it. I'm going lean on the offensive line. I've got Trent Williams, Aaron Banks, Jake Brendel, Spencer Burford, and Colton McKivitz as the starters. I think McGlinchey is going to have to be on some list to start the year. That'd be my guess. And then so my backups are Brunskill, Jalen Moore, and Jason Poe. My 3 specialists are obviously Tabor Pepper, Robbie Gold, and Mitch Wishnowsky. I'm going 11 D linemen. So I'm going Bosa, Armstead, Kinlaw, and Ebukam as my 1s. I'm going Drake Jackson, Ridgeway, Kevin Givens, Charles Menahue as my 2s. And then I've got Jordan Willis, Kerry Hyder, and Kamoko Toure. So I'm going with, basically 11 D linemen, which is a lot, but you can never have enough good D linemen. I'm going 6 linebackers: Warner, Aziz, Greenlaw, Oren Burks, Marcelino McCrary Ball, and Demetrius Flanagan-Foles. If I have to steal a roster spot, I'd probably get rid of Flanagan-Foles. I'm going short at safety. Talanoa Hufanga and the guy they just picked up, Tayshaun Gibson, who's got 27 career interceptions. I really like that pickup. I think that was a good pickup. And then Jimmy Ward and George Odom. So I'm going 4 safeties, not 5, going with 4. And I'm going 6 corners with Emmanuel Mosley, Charvarius Ward. And then I'm going with Samuel Womack, Diamador Lenore, Ambry Thomas over Tariq Castro Fields. And my last corner spot is Quantrez Knight, who I'm going to take because I think Quantrez can also play free safety.
Also, his dad shouted out Larry on Twitter.
That's right. Awesome. That's right. Quantrez Knight's dad followed me on Twitter last night and was fired up that I put his kid on the final 53. He deserves it. Yeah. He deserves it, Pops, because he can play 3 different spots, right? He can play free, he can play corner, he can play slot corner, and he's a ball player. He was good against the run. He's smart, really instinctive, plays faster than he times, doesn't take false steps. Great understanding of what he's looking at. So yeah, Quantrez Knight was the alpha in that UCLA secondary last year, and he's making this team. So that's my 53. So that means my cut down list, has some guys on it, unfortunately, that, are guys that I thought were going to make the team, but they're just not on the team. So who's on that cut down list? Here it is. Nate Sudfeld. And then some of these guys could be traded, but Trey Sermon, Ross Dwelly, Tanner Hudson, Tyler Croft, Troy Fumagalli, Dante Johnson, Jimmy Garoppolo, Malik Turner, Marcus Johnson, Willie Snead, Tay Martin, Jordan Mills, Tarvarius Moore, Justin School, Donovan West, Nick Zakel, Sam Schluter, Keaton Sutherland, Alfredo Gutierrez, Taylor Hawkins, Alex Barrett, Kevin Atkins, Akeem Spence, Curtis Robinson, Jeremiah Gemmel, Saguna Luby, Kadar Holman, Ken Crawley, and Tariq Castro Fields. Of that group, I really would like to retain Barrett, Castro Fields, Zakel, Curtis Robinson, Tay Martin, Tanner Hudson, Ross Dwelly, maybe Dante Johnson, maybe even Sudfeld. Those are the guys I'd like to retain. But I mean, that's how I'm cutting the thing down. And I get, everybody's got, I take this guy here and, one of the guys, Kyle Madsen from 95.7 was like, dude, you're crazy to put 2 tight ends on the roster. That's my roster. Yeah. Kyle, make your own, buddy. You'll see what it looks like. But yeah, I would say, you can always steal a guy here or a guy there, a move here, a move there. You want a third tight end, then maybe you keep a Dwelly or Tanner Hudson. They already cut Hudson today. Maybe Croft, and maybe you don't keep Kamoka Toure. But I'd rather go with the extra D lineman and make do with my third tight end, especially since Kittle, is going to get all your run. Warner is probably established as that second tight end. How many times do you actually go with 3 tight ends in a game? So I like the roster I put out there, but that's what I'm going with. And I really think, and I mentioned this today, that I just really think that when you look at the 49ers, Rye, they have a lot of, rookies. This is a stellar rookie class. I mean, Jackson, Davis Price, Gray, Burford, Kalia Davis, and Womack. That's 6 good drafted players. And then after the draft, you got Purdy in the draft, but then you have Mason, Poe, McCrary Ball, Quantrez, Tay Martin. The Niners could have 12 rookies on their team. And that's an incredible infusion of young talent. And I think every one of those guys has the potential to someday start. So we'll see. We'll see how many of them they keep. I would say no doubt they'll keep 9 or 10, but I'd go the full boat. I'd keep 12 rookies this year and just get ready to coach them up. You got a good coaching staff, coach those rookies up. You do this in a year from now, you're going to have the deepest team in the league. 2 years from now, you're going to be a Super Bowl team. 5 years from now, you may have multiple rings. That's what kind of young core. I think Lynch and the personnel department had a phenomenal draft and post-draft this year. And I think this camp has proved it.
Absolutely. I really can't disagree much with much of what you just said. I'm honestly right there with you, and maybe that's driving to camp with you every day, or practice every day, but I'm right there with you. Looks like our last donation before we call it a close. Mark Hope, in the last 20 years, what mobile QBs won a Super Bowl? Well,
Russell Wilson, Drew Brees,
Patrick Mahomes.
Rodgers,
I consider mobile.
He's definitely mobile. I wouldn't consider him. I mean, when he won it, he was more mobile.
Yeah.
I mean, for the most, you have to be able to, what you need is a mobile element to your game. But the game, and Greg Cosell talks about this every week on the matchup show, the game is won or lost from the pocket. Yeah. You can't just be a runner. I mean, how many Super Bowls has Kyler won right now? He hasn't won any. And how many Super Bowls has Lamar won? He hasn't won any. And now look at Lamar's stats last year after a couple of years ago. His stats are dwindling. Why? Because you run so long, you take hits. You slow down. You're no longer the same threat. You have to be able to make plays from the pocket. But I think Lance is definitely a pocket quarterback. with mobility.
He's more of a Mahomes than it's not like he has this crazy twitchy, it's more his arm is more of his freak show trait. And then
Mark Graves, you agree with me because you need a ride home. Yeah. Otherwise, it's a long walk back to Lafayette from Santa Clara. All right, good stuff. What do we got going on? We're going to do a little post game Giants coming up here tonight, right? Giants play what time? What time's first pitch?
It's at 4:15, I believe, and I scheduled the live stream for 7:15. So be sure to join us for that and check out the thumbnail. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, and then also Thursday night, we'll have 49ers. We'll be doing a segment for Talk Sport out of London for a little pregame for that one. But we'll be with you tonight talking Giants baseball. Also, we are going to be finalizing which of our Krueg Show members are going to be playing fantasy football with us. So we're going to do that. When are we going to actually pick the people for the fantasy league? You want to do that tonight in the live stream?
Let's do it tonight. Do that? Let's do it tonight. You know what? Okay. Let's do it tonight. And everybody that make sure, even if you can't make the Giants live stream tonight, make sure just to tune in for 1 second on your phone. Throw your name, just say, make sure that you put in, I want to be part of it. Because what we don't want to have happen is to give away a spot to somebody that's, maybe not down for it. So yeah, let us know who, if you want to be part of the drawing, you'll be part of the drawing. We have a few locks already. Yeah. And then the final thing I want to end on for myself is just to put this out there. We were just talking mobile quarterbacks and Lamar Jackson's regression this year. I think that the Baltimore Ravens are going to the Super Bowl, and I think that Lamar Jackson is going to be, at worst, number 3 in the MVP voting.
Wow. That'll be interesting. He's got Rashad Bateman. Full summer of getting in on the same page with Rashad Bateman. Dusty Gold says, Dan, will Dan have more trades on tap?
Oh, you know it.
Is the day long? I mean, Danny will most definitely have some trades. All right, before we get out of here, let's pay the bills. First, a word from our sponsors on the Krueg Show. Larry Krueger here for Telmetrics. Thanks to Casey Bateman and the good people at Telmetrics. If you're an occupational therapist, if you're an orthopedic surgeon, a chiropractor, a physical therapist of any kind, Telmetrics is designed for you to use in your practice and will greatly benefit your patients. Telmetrics uses computer vision and artificial intelligence and provides a platform for outpatient rehab therapy services, both in the clinical and the telehealth environments. So using Telmetrics can improve your patient's experience and much more. So for all your sports injury needs, or if you're a physical rehabilitation specialist of any kind, call and make sure you use telmetrics.co, Telmetrix.co. And thanks to Casey Bateman and all the good people at Telmetrics for being a proud sponsor of the Krueg. I'd like to thank our sponsor, Dan Coach Emilio. Dan is a buddy, and he is a phenomenal retirement planning specialist. And you can contact him today at securemoney.com or at his number 925-628-9966. There's a lot of uncertainty in our world right now, and you want to make sure that your money is secure. That is the key. Danny's got 25 years of experience, born and raised right here in the Bay Area, and he can help you get an immediate 10% premium bonus on your principal retirement account. So give him a call, 925-628-9966. He'll make an appointment with you, and you can sit down. It's not a one-size-fits-all kind of a deal. He'll consult with you and come up with a strategy to get you going to where you want to be. Once again, 925-628-9966, securemoney.com on the web. And thanks to Tony Cassera and the good people at Cassera's Italian Menswear. They are housing the Krueg Show t-shirts, and they're a proud sponsor of the show as well. The Krueg Show t-shirt, the Krueg Show podcast t-shirt is available there at their store in Dublin. Their address is 7372 San Ramon Road in Dublin, California. And go see Tony Cassera and get yourself a Krueg Show t-shirt and support the show.
And special thanks to our sponsor, New York Style Italian Sausage. That's right, NewYorkStyleSausage.com is their website. Phenomenal product, whether it's the breakfast sausage, the Italian mild, the Italian spicy, the chorizo. You cannot go wrong with New York Style Italian Sausage. Once again, NewYorkStyleSausage.com. Often imitated, never equaled.
We grew up with a Sunday dinner. That means no matter how busy you were, no matter where the hell you were, you came to dinner on a Sunday night. Yeah, Sunday dinner without sausage, it's like a church without God. You know, how can you go to church if you don't believe in God? You know, and along with the sausage also became the discussions. That was discussion night. You know, it wasn't a typical family that you sit there and you're quiet, you know, and you don't talk with a mouthful. Oh no, man. Italians talk when they're eating. Italians even talk when they're sleeping. And definitely we talk with our hands. So if we can't express it through our mouth, through our lips, we express it with our hands. So, and that's what sausage is, really. It's an expression, you know, that life is good.
So New York Style Sausage was started over 70 years ago. We are the largest producer of fresh Italian sausage on the West Coast.
What makes our sausage in New York Style is really the recipe came from back east, from New York, you know, from Connecticut.
If you look at all of our labels, there's maximum 4 or 5 ingredients, which we're really proud of.
There's no preservatives, no MSG, fresh in, fresh out.
The pork comes in fresh, goes out fresh. There's never any freezing throughout the process. We've always used fine quality cuts. We're never gonna deter from that. It's one of the reasons why our sausage is so good. I guarantee you put our sausage up against anybody else's from a flavor standpoint, no one will beat it, hands down.
And do yourself a favor and do me a favor. Go buy a package of the New York Style Italian sausage. Guaranteed you will love it. Guaranteed.
All right, fresh in, fresh out. Welcome back to the Krueg Show. Larry Krueger, Ryan Smith. Dan Coach Amelia will join us tonight for a little Giants post game. Rye, final words. Exciting day, and it was good to talk to Dave Softy Mahler once again. You know, Dave did lose his father. Just a few weeks back, and he's a big friend of our show, and he likes to play the nothing bugs me, and I'm a tough guy and this and that, but obviously he was very close with his father, and it's been an emotional thing for him. So Dave, we love you, brother, and we support you, and we thank you for giving us some of your time, and thanks for giving us the grand tour of the Seahawks complex, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
Off the start of the show, we got a little on the scenes look at the Seahawks facility and what their training camp looks like.
Yeah, we got to do the same thing. That's I'm excited to show off the access we're about to get. It's going to be really exciting. A really fun day overall. Larry and I had a lot of fun at Panera Bread, my first time there. And man, it was
absolutely huge.
It was huge. It had a lot of AC, free coffee refills. Big fan.
Yeah, there you go. Lucky Lefty 80 says, damn, homie made me want to learn more about sausage. Yeah, great. Mark Hope says, thanks, guys. Great show. Mike Vass says, thanks for another great show. I just threw in another. He said, thanks for a great show. And we did get to this one before, but Mark Hope donated $2 and said, in the last 20 years, what mobile quarterbacks won the Super Bowl? We kind of went through that a few minutes ago. And we have a brand new member. There we go. Giants Niners fan is becoming a YouTube member of the Krueg Show, and that is awesome. We're letting people who want to play fantasy with us jump in as YouTube members on our channel, and then we will have a drawing from our YouTube members to make sure that if you're a member, you're at least in a drawing to play fantasy football with us. You don't have to if you don't want to, of course, but if you'd like to, we would love to have you. So tune in tonight for the Giants post-game show. Giants go tonight, and what time's the first pitch you said?
4:15. Rodon on the mound. They, man. I bet
on the 20 minutes.
I've been having a lot of success betting against the Giants on this little skid, and you know what? They've sucked me back in. Rodon on the road. I bet on the freaking Giants. It's going to be.
There you go. Mike Vaz, one of the other members, says, welcome, Giants Niners fan. We have another member of the Krueg Show. And if you want to be a member, just click like and where you can click like and subscribe. It's free to subscribe. You'll be alerted anytime we're having a live stream or any kind of a Niner Giant Warrior post-game show. And I know you all want to be alerted. So if you're in the chat right now and you've yet to hit like and subscribe, do both of those things. They help the channel quite a bit. And if you'd like to be a channel member, I think it's $4.99 a month. You can be a channel member. That means you get exclusive content. We will have a lot of 49ers exclusive content this year coming up in a very short amount of time. But for Ryan, I'm Larry. That does it for our live stream. Ryan, we'll see you tonight.
See you tonight.
See you tonight, everybody.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you gon' get exactly what you asked for. Here for whatever you bring me, getting handled. I answer to no one, I don't need to hassle. Yeah.